Be prepared for an emergency and make new friends. Overview of Map Your Neighborhood by Colleen Mriglot. What will happen if and when the big one hits? Map Your Neighborhood, MYN pronounced mine, is an emergency preparedness program that has been implemented statewide by the state of Washington's Emergency Management Division, WA-EMD. It seeks to encourage small neighborhood groups to work together using its members' unique skills to help one another deal with emergencies when help may be days or weeks out. An emergent situation can arise from earthquakes, floods, power outages, snowstorms, other severe weather, and of course, pandemics. The premise of the program is that your immediate neighbors will be your most reliable source of help following an emergency. Since Washington State adopted the MYN program years ago, many other states have followed suit, with at least 22 states and FEMA having adopted it as well. According to emergency preparedness experts, government assistance may be limited for weeks. Now, instead of 3 days emergent food and water supplies, 14 days is recommended. In Scott James' book, Prepared Neighborhoods, Creating Resilience One Street at a Time, he discusses and outlines in detail the importance of developing self-sufficiency in our neighborhood communities. One reason is that in a wide-scale emergency, such as an earthquake, local and state emergency providers like the police, fire departments, and county emergency planning departments will be focused on primary infrastructure, not individual citizens. The MIND plan infers the best way to start is by getting to know your neighbors. Neighborliness reminds me of a political science / sociology class I took in the mid-2000s, in which we compared two books, Democracy in America by Alex de Tocqueville, published in 1835 and 1840, 2 volumes, and Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam in 2000. These books reveal a contrast about how America has changed since our country's infancy, with civil society and community involvement to our detriment. When Tocqueville, a French philosopher and statesman, traveled around and studied the American people in 1831 and 32, he found that we were a society characterized by 1, love of equality, 2, absence of tradition, 3, individualism, and 4, tyranny of the majority, and lastly, 5, the importance of free association. Tocqueville was impressed with the American spirit of cohesiveness and support for fellow citizens. However, in more modern times, Robert Putnam, a political scientist, examined the erosion of what he referred to as social capital. Social capital is defined as the connections among individuals, social networks, and the norms of reciprocity and trustworthiness that arise from them. Putnam has argued that the demise of social capital relates to pressures of time and money, mobility and sprawl, electronic entertainment, and generational differences. These include education deficiency, the decline of the nuclear family, issues with race and racism, the welfare state, big government, and market economics. Basically, he posited that we were losing sight of supporting our fellow citizens from a political, social perspective. This relates to emergency preparedness because the MIND program focuses on communities joining together, 1 street at a time. Groups of 15 to 20 homes define areas that can be canvassed in about an hour for the backdrop of disaster assistance. This means you have to get to know your neighbors. In order to get the MIND plan up and running, the group of neighbors first hold a meeting to create a map of the homes, learn the skill sets of members, determine the small groups for post-emergency work, and find out who may be more at risk. From there, groups may meet annually to refresh the plan and update contact information. Mine recommends a 9-step process to help the groups prepare and strategize, which are done in order. These include things like immediate protection of family members, checking on home utilities, and posting a message in your window to alert others of your status. Once these steps are done, neighbors gather and perform critical tasks such as listening via radio for emergency government communication, checking on vulnerable people, shutting off dangerous gas and or water lines, and sharing information. Can something as simple, humanistic, and important as an emergency preparedness program motivate us to care more about helping one another in our neighborhoods? For me, the answer is yes. Recently, my neighbor and I have initiated the MIND program in our small Suquamish, Washington neighborhood. The feedback was quite positive. We have our first meeting planned and have been gathering information about which members have particular skill sets. Importantly, I have become friends with some of my neighbors I've lived near for nearly 30 years. Don't bowl alone. If you have not already done so, reach out to your neighbors and get prepared to help each other in an emergency and foster new friendships. Further recommended reading and information can be found at Prepared Neighborhoods, Creating Resilience One Street at a Time by Scott James. See many books, articles, and websites noted by Mr. James available at Amazon. Note, at this writing, the MIND program will soon be replaced in Washington with Be 2 Weeks Ready, which is a similar program. Colleen Mriglot is an attorney practicing personal injury law on Bainbridge Islands. She offers legal representation in catastrophic injury, motor vehicle collisions, dangerous premises, dog attacks, and more. You can find her at 206-842-5681.